Record reflect, we have reconvened with all members present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I ask you to remain standing after the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as we take a moment to remember longtime Madison residents we lost over the past few weeks. Catherine Pappas, lifelong Madison resident, passed away on September 26th. She had recently celebrated her 87th birthday. Born in Madison on September 18, 1935, nicknamed Mitzi. She was raised in Madison, attended Madison High School. She met her beloved husband, Art Pappas, at a wedding of a mutual friend. Art was so smitten with her that he relocated from Boston to Madison, made the right choice to be closer to her. The couple were married in 1960. She began working as a legal secretary and then put her career on hold to raise children, and when her children were grown, she began a new career as admissions secretary for Drew University. She was a woman of faith and lifelong parishioner of St. Vincent Martyr. She was an avid Yankees fan who did not have to suffer through the playoffs, and a talented cook, especially of Italian specialties. She leaves behind her husband, 58 years, Art, her son Artie. She is survived by a daughter, Valerie, and Valerie's husband and two granddaughters. Also, Dr. Joseph Fenley died on October 11th. Madison resident since 1962. Dr. Fenley worked as an internist, private practice, and at Morristown Memorial until his retirement at age 89 in 2019. Born in New York, raised in Long Branch, Dr. Fenley left home at age 17, supported himself through undergraduate and medical school, completed his internship at Mountainside Hospital, where he met and married registered nurse Lucille Personetti. They were married in 1957 and were partners in life and business for over 65 years. Dr. Fenley served our country in the Army from 57 to 59. After completing his residency in 63, set up private practice in Madison and worked until he retired in 2018. He joined the staff at Morristown in 62 and also established the Morristown Memorial Hospital Cardiac Rehabilitation Program. He was primary care to thousands of patients, and he provided house calls throughout his career. He was a lifelong pioneer in patients' rights. He was involved in medical counsel and advisor in the landmark Karen Ann Quinlan case, which established the first ethics committee both at Morristown Medical Center and New Jersey Medical Society. I can't cover everything that he has done, so I encourage you to look up his obituary of Borough's Core and Dangler. It's an amazing story. He leaves behind his wife Lucille, also survived by a daughter Deborah, sons Glenn, Brian, Jeffrey, and 4 grandchildren. I want to take a moment to remember Alfredo Garabay, who died suddenly 2 weeks ago. Relatively new to Madison, but he in a short time gave back by serving on our planning board. So let us take a moment to remember Catherine Pappas, Dr. Joseph Fenley, and Alfredo Garabay, and let us pass our thoughts on to the families and friends they leave behind. Thank you. It is a little warm in here tonight, so you won't be offended if council members or others take off their jackets. It's perfectly permissible. Can I have a motion for the executive minutes of October 12th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Already been discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome all. I want to thank Bob Landrigan for covering me at the last meeting as I was away with the Conley family reunion. We had 8 of the 11 siblings there, along with a handful of nieces and nephews, so it's nice to be back where I can get a word in or two edgewise. Certainly wasn't happening there. And if you can indulge me for a little bit as I take a trip down memory lane. 10 years ago today, Tropical Storm, what was then at the time Tropical Storm Sandy, had just formed in the Caribbean, was moving northward. It cut across Cuba and the Bahamas and was tracking out to sea. Models were changed on October 26, showing a left turn in the path with a predicted landfall somewhere along the Delaware and New Jersey coasts. As we know now, the landfall was right across the middle of New Jersey, putting Madison and most of North Jersey and New York City on the wind side of the eye. The impact began on October 29th with landfall on the 30th. As the sun came out after Sandy moved through, we surveyed the damage in town and began the work recovery. As noted in the Madison Eagle editorial by Gary Herzog, it was the worst and best of weeks. Of course, the worst, as we thought we had seen it all with the previous Halloween with the snowstorm. Sandy caused much more damage, and it was the best of weeks as Madison rallied to the challenge as we often do. In the days before landfall, Bob Landrigan, who was in his first round as a council member, but more importantly was our Office of Emergency Management OEM coordinator, had pulled together the planning team. While we didn't expect the level of damage delivered by Sandy, Madison was ready. Having our own electric department certainly was part of the equation. Once our feeder lines were restored by JCP&L, our crews worked with precision and dedication to restore our downtown, followed by the neighborhoods. The coordination between our line crews and DPW with the cleanup was amazing. When Madison's power was restored, we shared our crews with JCP&L, helping restore power in our neighboring towns. And then there was the work of police under Chief Datchison, and fire led by Chief DeRosa, who responded to calls, making wellness checks, and doing all to keep our community safe. And the creativity of Ray Cody, who was able to quickly secure extra linemen from Louisiana through the town of Vineland. And one quick aside, one of my favorite stories of the linemen from Louisiana, they were in Barnesdale, and one of the Barnesdale neighbors asked, when will we have our power back? And the answer was, y'all will have your power back before LSU kicks off against Alabama tonight. And Ray also tracked down fuel to take care of the vehicles working on recovery. We had an army of volunteers led by Fran Boydman handling the phone bank to respond to the calls from residents. The ambulance corps, in addition to making emergency calls, opened their door as a warming center, giving residents without power a warm bed and a hot meal. They were also found our health department staff providing assistance. All of this alone would make Madison stand out, typical of our caring community, but there was more. When a call went out for generator exchange, we were overwhelmed with the response. Residents with generators who had their power restored did not hesitate to lend their generator to a family in the dark. The fire department assisted with the program, ensuring that they were all used safely. Neighbors checked on neighbors, inviting those waiting for power to come over for a warm dinner. And when I visited 5 churches on the Sunday after Sandy, the question wasn't, when will we get our power back, but what can we do to help those in need? And while the damage in Madison was extensive, we thought we were in a major disaster area, we certainly soon learned what we faced paled in comparison with the communities along the shore, especially Union Beach, a town that I barely knew existed until the picture of the half house appeared on the front pages throughout the country. As I said then, we lost our power. The residents of Union Beach lost their homes. As Madison often does, it answered the call to help others. I reached out to Union Beach Mayor Paul Smith to offer our help. He gladly accepted the offer. In the following weeks and months, we supported Union Beach in countless and creative ways. Building code inspectors were needed to speed up the work on the hundreds of homes that were not destroyed. And Russ Brown and his team answered that call. And if a home failed electrical inspection, a volunteer electrician from Madison was there to complete the repair, allowing power and heat to be restored to the home. They lost most of their police department fleet, so we donated retired police cars. The ambulance corps sent surplus supplies to replace what was lost in the storm surge. Generous residents and local banks secured truckloads of lumber delivered right to Union Beach. Rotary and others donated school supplies to stock their temporary school in a neighboring town. And in the following summer, with a creative idea from Peg and Ray Cody, Madison and generous donors sent Union Beach children to Camp Spears in the Poconos. The thought of summer camp seemed foreign to many families, but in the recovery, it was a godsend. In particular, I remember 2 postcards from Union Beach campers. One said, "This is the best vacation ever. I am not stressed or sad. I am the happiest person." And another said, "It felt good to get a hot shower." Keep in mind, this was 9 months after Sandy. The camp program continued through this past summer. We will certainly see many stories in the coming week about the 10-year anniversary of Sandy, but no story is better than ours. Madison planning for an emergency, delivering on the recovery, and stepping up to help others. Yes, 10 years, we saw one of our worst weeks, but we responded with our best. And I'm not done, sorry, but just shifting gears a little bit, though, and this is related to the 10th anniversary of Sandy. This Saturday, I was invited to the dedication of the newly renovated Union Beach Municipal Complex. It was named in the memory of Paul Smith, the mayor, during Sandy. Paul died suddenly 2 years ago in his 12th year as a mayor, having served 24 years on the council. And my wife was there. When she heard that, she almost fell off her chair. Paul and I developed a great friendship over the years. And every time we crossed paths, he would thank Madison for all the support. And it was great to see the progress they have made in the last decade. It was pointed out in an article that 75% of the homes that are in the floodplain have been raised since 2012. And the appreciation Union Beach still has for Madison, they've showed it that day and continue to show it. And shifting gears again, while I was enjoying time with my family, I did miss the rescheduled Bottle Hill Day, which is one of my favorite days of the year, and so it was tough. But as I've said before, if I was not with my family, they would have been talking about me. And the dinner table was about as noisy as Bottle Hill Day, so I felt right there. But it says a lot about Madison and the work of Lisa Ellis when an event can be postponed and still be as big as ever. And from everything I've heard, it was perfect from the weather to the turnout. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from John Hoover's report. And lastly, as yesterday we held our first Walk of Wellness, sponsored by the Mayor's Wellness Campaign. The event was to raise awareness for the mental health resources we have here in Madison while working through the stigma related to mental health. Certainly these resources have become more important and more evident through the pandemic. Partnering with the event with Madison Rotary, Madison Area YMCA, and Support Network for Madison. I want to thank Doug Willis, the president of Rotary, for chairing the committee, Jen Walters of the Support Network for all the time and effort she put into making the event success, and also Councilwoman Deb Cohen, who served on the committee, as she's a specialty in special events also. Music was provided by the Thorns, and we had tables throughout downtown showing the available support for those in need, so it was a great day. So thank you all. And we will now move on to reports from committees. Council President Landrigan, Utilities.
All righty. From the Electric Department, the American Electrical Testing Contract is now completing their second year of 3-year preventive maintenance contract for inspecting and testing of our 2 substations, Kings Road Substation and the James Park Substation. The crews removed all of the temporary electric service set up for the Bottle Hill Day festivities. The Electric Department cut down the lines, pulled the electric meters, and removed the utility pole at 28 Walnut Street, the old health department, in preparation for its demolition. The department is in the process of ordering a new pad mount transformer to supply power to the new buildings that will be constructed on Central Avenue. And finally, the Electric Department is working with Tanya Van Orden from the Housing Authority to relocate the transformer to higher ground in the Chateau Thierry Senior Citizens rear parking area. Okay, from the Water Department, the fire hydrant flushing program will be completed by the end of October, with the exception of private areas such as Drew University and private condominium associations. What they want you to know is that while hydrant flushing typically will not interrupt water service, residents may notice a temporary drop in water pressure while the crews are working in the area, and also the water may become discolored. This is absolutely normal, nothing to worry about. And then finally, on A 6-inch water main broke on Longview Avenue on Wednesday, October 19th in the afternoon. The fire department was utilizing a hydrant to test a new apparatus on their fire trucks, and the slow closing valve did not close slowly enough, causing the water main to break. The sudden stop caused, it gets very technical. Bottom line is the fire department and water department are currently working on a solution to the problem. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Public Safety, Ms. Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Fire Department, the Fire Department has been busy this month visiting pre-K through 8th grade students and teaching them about fire safety. Progress continues on our municipal trunked radio system. Antennas and coaxial cables at both the radio transmission sites have been installed. Both sites have been made ready for equipment to be installed by our in-house electrical contractor. We are anticipating going live on the new radio system by January or February of next year. Our firefighters have been mounting equipment on and training with our new rescue pumper. We are targeting the first week of November to put her in service. On Tuesday morning, on October 18th, the fire department responded to the town of Morristown to assist the Morristown Fire Department at a very near fatal fire. And finally, volunteer firefighters are needed. Anyone wishing to join as a volunteer firefighter can go to www.madisonfd.com for more details on how to join and what is required. From the Police Department, beginning last week, both school resource officers, Tom Downs and Peter Frank, have been conducting safety talks at all the elementary schools within Madison. The safety talks consisted of topics like Halloween safety, pedestrian and traffic safety, stranger danger, and internet safety. The talks will conclude this week and include Kings Road School, Central Avenue School, and Torrey J. School. And finally, this Saturday, October 29th, the Madison Police Department will be accepting old medication to be turned in as part of DEA Medication Turn-In Day, which will be held from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Police Headquarters located at 62 Kings Road, Madison. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Community Affairs, Mr. Hoover.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, I was taken with COVID and was unable to attend Bottle Hill Day, but what I heard was that it was the most successful Bottle Hill Day ever, and I want to thank all of the sponsors, managers, participants, everybody who participated in Bottle Hill Day. It was just terrific, from what I understand. From the Downtown Development Commission and the Director of Business Development, the next meeting of the DDC will be held on Thursday, October 27th at 7:15 in the committee room next door, second floor, Hartley Dodge Memorial, and everyone is invited to attend. It's an open public meeting. The 6th annual Trunk or Treat and Pumpkin Illumination will be held on Friday, October 28th, beginning at 5 p.m. Prizes will be given to the top 3 decorated cars or trucks. Proceeds will benefit the Madison Volunteer Ambulance Corps, and look for registration information on the I Love Madison NJ Facebook page. From the Chamber of Commerce, cornstalks and scarecrows decorated by chamber businesses will be up on Waverly Place from October 18th, you probably see them now, through November 1st for all to enjoy. The Halloween Parade and Magic Show is scheduled for Saturday, October 29th from 12:30 to 3 p.m. Visit the Chamber's website at madisonnjchamber.org for more information. From the Madison Community Arts Center, the first gallery show with paintings by Maria Lupo is now on the walls, and the official opening date will be announced shortly. The center will host a TEDx talk tomorrow, October 25th, including Madison resident Andy Breckman. It is open to the public, and information is on the Madison area Arts and Culture website. Between today and the end of the year, the center will host nearly 45 separate public events that include comic improv, cabaret, theater production, play readings, classical music, and jazz. Information on all of these can be found on the Madison Arts and Culture Alliance website and by clicking on the Arts Center at the bar menu bar. On November 13th at 4 p.m., the center will host a fundraiser for the Madison Arts and Cultural Alliance, headlined by Jerry Veza, Grover Kemble, and Bryn Stanley. Tickets are $75 and will include wine, beer, soft drinks, and hors d'oeuvres. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Finance and Borough Clerk, Ms. Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I get to my report, just a brief comment on yesterday's event. I'm super grateful that this event came to Madison and that the Rotary and the support network of Madison and others brought it, and hopefully it will continue to grow as more people are willing to share their stories. Mental health is important as we get closer to the holidays. Please remember the joyous celebrations of many are side by side with those who the holidays bring stress, anxiety, and depression. What is seen on the outside or on social media is not always the truth. So please keep an eye on your friends, families, remember to be kind, and as Jen Walters beautifully said, and others have said it before, remember, it's okay to not be okay. On to the clerk's office. In anticipation of the November 8th general election, the County of Morris will hold early voting in several locations throughout the county, including the courtroom of the Hartley Dodge Memorial Building. Early voting will take place from Saturday, October 29th to Sunday, November 6th. Polls will be open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. On Election Day, polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Vote by mail applications must be received by the Morris County Clerk before Monday, November 1st. Separately, a reminder that the electric utility rebate program ends December 1st. Forms are available in the clerk's office and online. From the CFO, we continue to see cost increases for various items, which will have an impact on the 2023 budget. Most recently, the Morris County Municipal Utilities Authority announced a 4.7% increase in cost for the disposal of garbage. The entire county is under a waste flow order. This means that even if the borough can find a less expensive site to take our curbside garbage, we must bring all of our garbage to the county for disposal. The disposal of solid waste is a significant part of the overall waste removal line in the municipal budget. That line has gone up from $1.6 million in 2019 to over $2 million in 2022. That is almost a 25% increase over the last 3 years. This evening, we are voting on a number of resolutions to authorize the extension of contracts associated with recycling and waste removal, and all of these costs are going up as well. In short, the waste removal budget will increase again in 2023. From the tax collector, the fourth quarter property taxes are due on November 1st with a grace period ending November 10th. As a reminder, the tax collector's office has recently moved and is now upstairs with the finance and utility billing departments of Hartley Dodge. There is a drop box available in the clerk's office on the first floor for residents who want to drop off their payments and don't need a receipt. There is an elevator available to reach the second floor if the stairs are a little too daunting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a cold, so excuse my froggy voice. The engineering department reports that the MRC accessible trail construction work is nearly complete. They have performed final paving, topsoil, and seeding on the trail corridor, and only signage, striping, benches, and final review remain to be accomplished. We saw some great photos of the nearly completed work, and I encourage everyone to check out the new trails, which provide an excellent connection from Ridgedale Avenue to the MRC. From Public Works, DPW sends their thanks to Lisa Ellis for her direction on Bottle Hill Day. Ken O'Brien reports that her guidance and direction makes their crew's setup work go very smoothly, and they appreciate that. DPW has been working around town replacing the broken sidewalk under the Prospect Street Rail Bridge. They moved some of the plantings from the Civic Center and replanted them at the train station and at Niles Park. And they've started some interim trail repairs behind Sunny Vitale Field at the paths connecting to Delbarton Park, thanks to the suggestions of Parks Advisory Committee member Jeff Thomas. The sewer department continues with sewer cleaning on a quarterly basis, and they send their thanks to Michael Pelessier for getting the word out and keeping residents informed of progress. And lastly, from DPW, leaf season is upon us, and Public Works will start doing pickup in some of the heavier collection areas first. Shade Tree Management Board has completed their windshield survey, which is how they assess the health of Madison's street trees and identify possible locations for the next round of street tree planting. So thank you to those volunteers for their service to the borough and their care for Madison's trees. Approximately 22 new street trees will be planted this fall thanks to their efforts. That's all.
Thank you. And Health, Mr. Range.
Thank you, Mayor. Morris County's COVID community level is currently medium. We are back at medium after an increase in hospitalizations since mid-September. A reminder that the new booster vaccine formulations for both Pfizer and Moderna are available. These bivalent boosters not only provide protection for the earlier variants, but also for the more recent Omicron lineages known as BA4 and BA5. Flu season is also upon us, and the health department will be holding 2 flu clinics this year in Madison. The first is tomorrow for the residents at Rexford Tucker Senior Apartments, and on Thursday we'll be conducting a flu clinic for the general public from noon to 5:30 p.m. here in the courtroom of Hartley Dodge Memorial. Pre-registration is encouraged, although walk-ins for the flu shot are welcome. Also available at Thursday's clinic will be the bivalent COVID boosters for adults, although those do require pre-registration. Registration information for both of those clinics are available on rosenet.org. Whether you get your flu shot or COVID vaccines from the health department or a private provider, now is the time to get your flu shot and to get up to date on your COVID vaccines and boosters. Lastly, tonight, our rabies clinic will be held on Saturday, December 3rd, 10 a.m. to noon at the DPW garage. And this year, we will not be requiring pre-registration. So you're welcome to join us at any time from 10 till noon on December 3rd to get your animal's rabies vaccine. That's all tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Communications and petitions.
All right. Yes, the mayor and council received one email dated October the 18th from Lisa Morrow, Michelle DeBall, and Sharon Strait. There's a pickleball instructors thanking the staff of the Department of Public Works for their preparation of Dodge Field for the pickleball lessons.
Thank you. And now we move on to our first of 2 invitations for public comment. This one is limited to our agenda discussion items or the resolutions. I will now go through the items that you may comment on. And a reminder, if you want to comment on any other topic, you need to wait to our second invitation for comment, which will come after the presentation today. So during the agenda discussions, the Hartley Dodge Memorial Trustees will be presenting a lighting project update, and this is a project that is being fully funded by the trustees, and so an exciting story that will be shared shortly. And these are the resolutions you may comment on. Resolution 269 is authorizing extension of contract for solid waste. This is through December 31st, 2024, not to exceed $1,071,000. And the first set of resolutions here are all related to contracts are being extended. When we went out to bid several years ago, we had the option to extend, and we certainly in this current climate want to extend the current contracts as outlined in their offers. Resolution 270 is for preventive maintenance on sewer pump station equipment, and this is 1 year through 2023. Resolution 271 is authorizing the contract for yard waste collection with Waste Industries, and this is through December 2024, not to exceed $432,000. Resolution 272 is extending the contract for collection of disposable recyclable materials, and this is through 2024, not to exceed $793,000. Resolution 273 is extending contract for tree pruning and tree removal services with Honor Tree Service through 2023. Resolution 274 is extending contract for removal and proper recycle of collected leaves with Northeast Products of NJ, and this is extended through 2025 and not to exceed $164,780. Resolution 275 is authorizing collective bargaining agreement with the Firefighters Mutual Benevolent Association with the 911 Telecommunications Local Fort 74. Resolution 276 is authorizing a fee for recording of council meetings. This is for Michael Pelessier at a stipend of $1,000 per month for evening meetings. Resolution 277, a resolution of the Borough of Madison authorizing medical and prescription drug plan offerings on the state health benefit program, the state of New Jersey, and this is an annual thing, and the open period starts shortly. Resolution 278 is awarding contract for the purchase of Pen Globe LED aluminum lampposts to Facilities Solutions Group, and this will be funded through electric capital account, not to exceed $146,840. Resolution 279 is awarding professional services contract to Mott McDonald for professional engineering services for WellBe Construction, not to exceed $30,000, funded through Ordinance 31, 2022. Resolution 280 is professional services contract to J.A. Mahalik Architect for WellBe Roof Construction Services, not to exceed $5,000. Resolution 281 is authorizing Eagle Scout project to Madison Recreation Center, and this is the fabrication and installation of kiosks and maintaining the rain gardens there. Resolution 282 is approving 5K run and fun walk for Saturday, November 19th for the Tory J PTO. Resolution 283 is approving temporary signs for Family Promise of Morris County, starting October 25th through November 8th. Resolution 284 is authorizing competitive contracting for retaining consultant to perform home energy audits. Resolution 285 is authorizing intent to issue new license pursuant to the new theater exception plenary retail consumption. A lot of words. Basically, this would allow theater operations with 50 or more seats to have a liquor sales during shows. This supports the Shakespeare Theater, for example. Resolution 286 is awarding contract to Riverview Paving for the Green Avenue Pedestrian Safety Project, amount of $295,557. This is funded through Ordinance 41, 2022, and be primarily a reimbursed project through the state. Resolution 287 is requesting a insertion of item of revenue in our budget of $3,900 from a grant, and 288 is a similar one for an amount of $1,000. And Resolution 289 is appointing Jamie Cornine to the position of apprentice lineman. Starting salary as outlined collective bargaining agreement of $61,990. Resolution 290 is authorizing appointment of John Cerruti to the position of labor and public works, salary $36,081, also in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement. And those are all of the resolutions, a heavy list. So if you want to comment on any of those or the agenda discussion, please step up to the lectern, state your name, your address, and the item you are commenting on. And again, if you want to comment on a general topic, you have to wait for the next round.
Good evening. Matt Van Hatten, 116 Ridgedale Ave in Madison. I just wanted to make a comment on Resolution 286, 2022. That's the bump out on Green Ave. I feel there's a better use of those funds. It's $295,000. I think you can use the municipal portion of those funds to help support the police department. I think that would be a better use of those funds. And in terms of the state funds, I think you can use those towards a better infrastructure project in town. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Projects like this are funded through capital, not necessarily through operations, and the state has very limited, this is through DOT, so it's a project guided by their safe walking, not necessarily safe walking programs, but provides a safer environment.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Tom Harlan Pudis, 27 Pomeroy Road. Thanks, John, for your report on Bottle Hill Day. Sorry you missed it. I'm very sorry the mayor missed it because he had a responsibility that day to flip hamburgers. And he left it up to Steph and me, right, Ray?
Yep.
It's his
I
sister-in-law.
heard it went well, though.
Awesome job flipping hamburgers at Rotary. We made a lot of money, which was great. And it was a nice event. Is there a time when the borough reports on the revenue from that event? Do you already have an idea? Because you got all the fees for all the booths, so you can answer that, Mayor.
I'll answer that after your
Yeah,
comments. Yep.
I'm sure it's a good revenue maker for the beer garden was also very well organized and nice social event. Maybe you could do that again on another day besides on Bottle Hill Day, something to think about. A couple comments I had was, this is something that was discussed years ago regarding Resolution 274 with leaf recycling that the borough pays for. It's a very big expense. I think you said about approximately $164,000, Mayor. So you have a pretty active environmental commission now, contrary to when I was there. We were active too, but Claire's really on top of things. So that might be an option for consideration again, to see if there's a way to do it within the borough's borders and not have to pay $165,000 to have the leaves recycled, trying to be green instead of paying trucks to take the leaves very far away to get them all composted. The other comment I had was about Resolution 278, all the lampposts. I think you said it was a $174,000 project. Did I hear that correctly?
146.
146, okay. So this must have been discussed at another meeting, or maybe there was a presentation on it and I missed it. So if you could just give us a brief recap where they're going around the borough. That sounds like a lot of lampposts, although I'm sure they're pretty expensive also. And then I was going to also comment on what Matt commented on about 286, not necessarily the budgeting of it, just that I'm not a big fan of the bump outs. And you've heard residents come up before and tell you that they're, maybe a little controversial how much safer they actually make the streets by slowing down traffic and some of the issues for biking around them and for people pushing strollers or walking with their children. So or maybe it's already too late that you're already moving forward with it, but if there's a way to redo the sidewalks without maybe the bump outs and see if that still doesn't, lead to any main issues, it might be something to think about. I still have time there?
I got 1 minute.
Oh, well, I'm done.
All right.
And under the wire. Okay, I don't have to ask. I'm going to bank that minute another day.
Okay, a couple of things there. The amount on the leaf contract, that is a 2-year contract, but you make a good comment about the removal of leaves. We can't do it on site because we would need a special composting license to do it on within our borders. But for those that are raking underneath their bushes or every square inch of their land, leave the leaves alone. It's part of nature. They leave them for the winter, leave them into the spring. Butterflies or other lay their eggs in there, and then in your late spring cleanup, take care of those leaves. I take them off my lawn, but I leave them everywhere else. So, it's one way to take care of it. The DDC will be, as mentioned by John, they're meeting this Thursday, and so they'll have a report on the success of Bottle Hill Day, and we'll share that at our next council meeting, but still crunching those numbers. It was such a busy day. Lamp posts. These are to replenish our stock. These are the same ones we use in downtown, but we have a major project coming up, which is the reconstruction of Cook Avenue. So these lamp posts would be used in the Cook Avenue parking lot and other locations. They're aluminum, so much lighter than what the solid steel ones that we've used before. And yes, bump outs, people love them, people hate them, but it is a proven traffic calming and a safety thing for multiple reasons. One, for crossing the street, your time over pavement is greatly shortened. They do choke down traffic. We have recognized in the past that the ones on Prospect had not the best turning radius, and the ones that have been put in since then have a much better turning radius. But one of the interesting things about Prospect, every time you pave a road, We check the speeds before construction and after construction, and typically there's always an increase. With the bump outs there was not an increase on Prospect, so they are proven. And one of the examples of great success, and Green Avenue is similar to this, is at Britton Street, where crossing guards would be stopping the traffic for someone, a child in the crosswalk, and a car would pass on the right, come upon the crosswalk, and only to see that student. That's not possible when the bump outs are there. So you think about the one at Wilmer, that will eliminate that. So yes, some people love them, some people don't. I'm a bicyclist, and I recognize the pluses and minuses, but it will be an improved safety, and we've had people from the neighborhood coming to speak in support of those. Anyone else wishing to comment on any resolutions or the one agenda item? Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting, and we move on to agenda discussions, and John Forte from the Hartley Dodge Trustees will lead off. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you for having us here tonight to present what we believe is a very good lighting concept for Hartley Dodge Memorial Building. I just wanted to give a little bit of brief background of how we got to today. About a year and a half ago, as the Plaza project was getting underway, we looked at the project and we said, we believe we can enhance this. The lighting needed to be enhanced for code reasons anyway, and we felt that we could do it in a way that was in keeping with the historic nature of the building and really highlight some of the features of the building and bring Hartley Dodge Memorial into the 21st century and make sure that it stays a relevant building in the time to come. And as you see the lighting plan tonight, I'd like you to think about how the building can be used differently and in more ways than it's used currently, with the building lit as a backdrop for evening events and other things that can happen on the plaza, which you guys have done such a great job of restoring. So with that, I'm going to introduce Marcus Ferger with the Office of Visual Interaction, which is a best-in-class lighting design firm that we found in New York. Among other things in their portfolio is the newly refurbished Moynihan train station in Manhattan, as well as the New York Times building. They've got an excellent portfolio, and we're really excited to be working with them. So please, Marcus, come on up.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening. Thank you for the introduction. We've prepared a few slides because I can tell you about the lighting concept, but seeing it is better, right? So I give a quick, brief introduction about our company, about our approach, some of the references, and then dive into our project here. It's actually a true honor to speak here in the project that we're working on together. So with that, if you would like to start. I'm not going to make you all of the story here, but we're a 25-year-old company in New York City. We have locations distributed throughout the United States. We work globally on different projects throughout the world, really, from Asia, Middle East, all the way to the US, of course. Next slide, please. These are some of our projects we've been working on. That's a selection. But I've picked two particular ones that I want to present a bit further, which is the Rookery Building and the Canadian Parliament. If you would like to please go to the next one. And I picked these for a reason, because we have a very historic background with this project here. And the point that I'm trying to make with this is we have a good track record understanding history and working with architecture, historic preservation, and lighting features of the architectural history. Next, please. The Rookery building in Chicago, you might know that one, has had a very dark existence during the nighttime when it was not illuminated. So the owners there said, we need a presence that essentially gives us something that it translates the daytime appearance to the nighttime appearance so that it's not lost. We went very delicately with that. So you see it's not overlit. It's not like a beacon of the urban environment. It's essentially accentuating the facade features of the historical architecture. And with that, we took a look at the site and the context of Madison. This being the center, really, and what this could be in the long run, as far as translating what it is during the daytime into the dusk and evening atmospheres, right? Obviously, it's a very lively, connected place of assembly. We can, next please, we can see many different events happening here, and this can be very artful events, it can be weddings, it can be essentially, we're creating a backdrop for urban and cultural events. Next please. So we looked at examples, how has this been done in other places and how can we do this here? Again, we want to be very delicate and subtle with the articulation. We don't want this to be sort of like a casino or anything else that stands out in the night, right? Really calling the attention. What we want is a translation of what it is during the daytime, as I've mentioned, translated to the night. And so with that, we've prepared a few layers. We call them, next please, we call them lighting layers. How we understand lighting, it is essentially a system of lighting layers that can be faded in. They can tend towards a more classic iconic scheme. And then at times when cultural events call for it, we can activate it in a more active, dynamic, or vibrant scheme, right, to respond to some of those events. The majority of times it would be more classic, as it is during the daytime, and at times we will then dial up the volume of the colors. Next, please. So the next few slides, it's essentially a progression of lighting layers, and we're going to go through them rather quickly, so I would like you to keep your eyes on the screen so we understand these layers. It's a light massing diagram where you see the Hartley Dodge Memorial. Next, please. Without lighting. This is what we see currently, more or less. So the first layer of light would be essentially, next, would be essentially a subtle floodlight on the facade, on the vertical facade, so that it has sort of like a background and an existence there. Very low, and these are dimmable luminaires, so can actually dial down how bright we want this to be. Next. Then we articulate the center of the building, which is, from the architectural point of view, essentially symmetrical, the most important part that you would see driving by the street, or also for long distant views. Next. The vertical illumination of those features of the columns all the way to the bell tower. And then last but not least, the handrail lighting that essentially takes care of the plaza, connecting it back to the ground. Now this would be essentially what we would see then as the static day-to-day time activation of the building. And then if we look at some of the cultural events, next please, we can start to associate some of colors to these events, whether it's President's Day, whether it's a Bottle Hill Day, right? There is an associated color. And then certain elements could respond to whatever the cultural event would be. And so you see how we have essentially the portico, the backlight thereof, slightly illuminated in blue, and that could replicate itself then also in the bell tower for far distant views. And next slide. On the plaza level, this is how we achieve it. We've identified in plan where some of those luminaires will live. You see from A to F, essentially, where these luminaires and lighting hardware will be located. We have, I think, a little bit more detail on plan then that we can go in a bit more detail. And with the next slide, we're essentially then closing out. In section, you see that these luminaires, the lighting hardware as we call it, we try to hide them as much as possible, and as I've mentioned, we have a great experience in finding the smallest luminaires for the job and hiding them in the architecture as much as possible, so that really what you're seeing is the lighting effect, the architecture, the place, the environment, rather than luminaires. And this is how we would do it. And that, I think, closes our slide set. Next slide is essentially what we're going for. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to address them together with Tyler.
Questions or comments? Deb?
Just a quick question. First of all, thank you. And
Yeah.
I was looking at it both, because the
Very good.
matching slides, because you made some updates, which is great. But just the question or clarification, I guess more for the public, when we redid the plaza, the basis for any lighting, that's already kind of in, so we're just talking about adding the lights in, is that correct? Like we did any of
The conduits are all
Thank
in
you.
place for future lighting,
for
yeah.
future, like whether it was this or something else, that's already been, we don't have to re-tear up
Yeah,
the...
for example, people have been asking, what are those little wooden boxes at the foot of each of the columns? That is for a future light.
Yeah, the infrastructure is there, right, as I understand it, yeah.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Can you tell us a little bit about provisions for dark sky lighting so that we can be sure we don't have a lot of light pollution, either spilling off-site or going up and confusing migrating birds and insects?
Yes, we've actually recently done the same sort of lighting scheme for the New York Times building. Same is true for the Rookery building in Chicago. The majority of luminaires and lighting hardware that we're installing is facing downward. So there's no, the reflected light can be essentially neglected. There's not a lot of that. I think the only thing that we're careful with is the accentuation of these columns, which we have uplights, and those can be dimmed down as needed when there is birds migration season or in certain times. Also the portico shielding quite a bit of that uplight so that there's not an amount going into the dark sky.
In terms of controls, which I'm sure would be somewhat complex for the system, is there, I imagine there's programming that people operating the building here would need to understand, or how is the programming managed, if we need to make changes or adjustments?
Yeah, so the system usually is a system that's being set in place when it's being activated with certain scenes, and those scenes can be activated by maintenance personnel. Most of the time it runs actually on an astronomical time clock and activates it itself, but for events like a cultural event, an event on the plaza, you could go in and just select the scene and then activate that one. So it's a little bit more upfront programming, but then the system essentially maintains itself.
Yep, Maureen?
So with this new lighting, would that mean the plaza would be able to be used for events in the evenings as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't...
So would it, with the new lighting, would that mean that the plaza could be used for evening events as well, or with?
Absolutely, that's the idea, right? It's the backdrop for evening events, which what we're not saying is that this is, for example, if you have a stage or whatever, an event that needs additional lighting, that is still the case, right? If you put a stage that essentially a performance, there would maybe be the need for additional lighting, but what we're providing is essentially the backdrop for events like that.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? Tyler, anything else to add? Or? And this is Tyler Merson, who works
Tyler Merson. I work as a project manager for the Hartley Dodge Foundation, and I just wanted to share a few details about the implementation of the project. I brought with me a sample of the column lights. They take a bit to warm up, but they're set here in the back. They're very low profile lights. When they warm up, we'll see how they shine up. Let's see, so for phase one, which we would start this fall and into the spring, we would replace the floodlights that are currently situated in the middle of the lawn, and we'd nestle them by the curb walls to either side of the lawn, so they would be less noticeable. The column lights would go in under each column, and we would also switch out the portico ceiling lights and also the rear floodlights that are on the back of the building. We also have coming back the original firehouse lights and police department lights that are being refurbished with LED heads and new glass. And then phase two, which would be in the spring, would include new handrail lighting for the main plaza, which is currently being fabricated by Rambush Lighting, and then also new handrail lighting for the east and west entrances. And as well, we'd like to discuss new heads for the 5 street lamps in front of, along Kings Road, that would be less bright and more in keeping with the rest of the lighting plan that's going in. And then ultimately, at the end of that, we would remove the 4 stanchion lights that are coming up out of the plaza now, 2 on the main plaza that were put in 2007, and the 2 lights that were put in just with this past plaza renovation last spring. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the demo also, appreciate it. Great, thank you very much. No other questions or comments? Looks like a great project. And again, John, please thank the trustees and your support for this project and more importantly, our partnership in taking care of this great building.
Quite welcome. It's certainly our pleasure. Thank you.
All right, normally we would have our ordinances for hearing, but we didn't have our typical full 2 weeks in between meetings, so ordinance 46, which was introduced at the last meeting, will have a hearing at November 14th. So now we're on to our second of 2 invitations for public comment. This is when you may make a comment on any topic, and with the same rules applying. Step up the lectern, state your name, address, write the same on the clipboard, try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. I'll give you a 1-minute grace period, and you'll be stopped at 4. Anyone wishing to comment, please step forward.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lenora Clark, and I live on 7 Oak Circle. A few things I just want to touch base on tonight was public safety, the environment, and some financial challenges that Madison is experiencing. Also, I'd like to, there was an article written in the Madison Eagle regarding the contract for the police department and the fire department, and I'm glad that the residents know what's going on with that, and hopefully they'll have a contract sooner than later. Madison is a great place to live. It's raised a family, and one of the many reasons is due to the community and commitment to public safety. Public safety is the backbone of any society, and without it, Madison would not be considered one of the best places to live in New Jersey. You know, going around town and talking with people, many residents feel that public safety should be a top priority in maintaining a healthy and vigilant or vibrant community. In fact, most people I speak with, public safety is within the first top 3 that they're concerned with. With all the challenges that lay ahead of us, such as a 20% increase in health insurance, food costs, gas, and the increases in water rates, at a time when inflation is very high, cost of living is high, what can we do as a community to maintain our town's health and well-being? Many of our residents are feeling the pinch, and I think it would be in our town's best interest to try and ease that financial burden on our residents by thinking of ways that we can reduce costs wherever we can. Perhaps some pet projects can be postponed for a while and focus instead on keeping costs to what is necessary. What are some things we can do as a community over the next few years to ease the financial burden to our residents? It's a question I'm putting out there, Mr. Mayor. Some of my main concerns, and other people's concerns as well, and priority, is let's make public safety a top priority, and let's try and get a contract for the fire department and the police department. The environment, let's focus on keeping our mature trees healthy, since they contribute to our environment by absorbing carbon and adding oxygen to our atmosphere, and also improving our air quality. Along with, they're a refuge for birds and other wildlife as well, and they're beautiful. Keeping our trees healthy is great for our environment and more cost-effective than cutting them down. Electric vehicles. Going forward, as we purchase new vehicles for the borough, let's also consider the hybrid vehicle, since they can be more affordable and reliable. I would like to see the council discuss the pros and cons of both solar panels, wind farms, and lithium batteries, such as what are the recycling options for solar panels and batteries at the end of their life cycle? Do we have a plan to deal with the waste that green energy technologies can create? I think these are all necessary financial and environmental discussions we should have going forward in maintaining the health and vibrancy of Madison.
1 minute.
Thank you. I'm good. I'm done.
All right, thank you. Okay, I captured some of those. We can touch on some of them after the end of the comment period. Anyone else wishing to comment, please step forward.
Suzanne Schreiber, Greenwich Court. At past meetings, I've expressed my concerns with the energy plan, the push to eliminate fossil fuel. Natural gas is clean, safe, and readily available. The replacement energy sources, electricity generated by wind and solar, are immature and unreliable energy resources. Just look to Texas, California, and Europe as examples. There's so much we don't know. How long do EV batteries and solar panels last? What's the replacement cost? Can they be recycled? In the next presentation by the Climate Action Committee, I and many other Madison residents would like the committee and council to address our questions and concerns, and I'll list some of them for you. The Madison annual budget relies heavily on the electric fund balance, also known as the electricity surplus. On average, over $6 million is moved from this fund for use as an operating budget, capital expenses, and debt service. Whether we agree with Madison's high electrical rates and the existence of the Energy Surplus Fund, a tax by any other name, will hold for another day. The question is, what happens to the electric fund if everyone moves to solar? Or even if half of the Madison homes move to solar? Those homeowners and businesses, per Ms. Ehrlich and Mr. Freed's presentations, will be paying a significantly reduced electric bill. Less money into the electrical utility means less money to operate the utility and to generate the electricity surplus funds that the borough relies on. Does this mean that the entire cost of the electric utility will then fall on homeowners who don't have solar panels? Do the residents and businesses that put up solar panels no longer have responsibility for keeping the electrical grid operational? With reduced dollars coming into the electrical fund, where will the revenue come from to support the operating budget, the capital, and the debt service? What's the financial plan to make up the difference? The government incentives being offered today are not going to be there in the future. The costs are too high. We've already seen that with the increased costs on EVs. Do you know what the electrical rates are going to be 5 years from now? What changes to our existing infrastructure are needed to support the increased changing demand on the grid? What's the plan to increase the redundancy of our only two feeds into the town if our plan is to completely rely on electricity? Can we afford to put all our eggs in one basket? What about EVs being planned for the police at the DPW? How will they get energy if we experience another Sandy and we have no electricity for 3 or 4 more days? Electrification sounds good. Electrification sounds good, and if you want to buy an EV, great, go for it. But for Madison, let's make sure we look at the costs and the consequences. Ask questions, speak up, voice concerns. As I've said in previous meetings, look at the science, but do not forget that the economics and the energy security are even more important to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We can comment on a few of those shortly. Anyone else wishing to comment? Tom? Or Peter?
Peter Toshima, 70 Britton Street, Madison. Mayor, Council. Lifelong resident of Madison. Grew up here through the 60s and the 70s, 80s. Went through the school system. Graduated from college, played Madison men's softball through the 90s and the 2000s, came back, married and lived in a beautiful house on Britton Street in Madison. I've always been proud to call Madison my home, have been so proud to be part of the town that was rated #1 in the whole state of New Jersey. Madison has always been a welcoming town. So yesterday morning, driving home from church, I take a left out of the parking lot. I pass by this beautiful ceremony on the lawn of the municipal building, the Walk for Wellness. It was fantastic, everybody with green shirts on. I was so proud. I continue on into the center of Madison, driving home, through town, crossing onto Central Avenue, on the corner of Central and Main. There's a big, what you would call pickup truck, parked on the right-hand side of Central Avenue, right near the pharmacy. And on the back of the window of that pickup truck were two words that were obscene. They were denigrating our current president of the United States. I don't even want to say what it is. It was the first time I'd ever seen it. I was so livid. As a lifetime-long resident of Madison, a welcoming community, I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is going on here? And I don't know what I can do about that, because I know how divisive everything is these days. But all I can do is raise my voice here tonight and ask everyone in the community, and I hope whoever that is, whose truck that is, whether they're a visitor, a resident, a business owner, to think about the impact that might have on children who walk by that intersection every day.
In one minute, Peter.
And to think about the effect that has on the future of our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Back. Wow. A lot of minutes I'm using up tonight, Mayor. Tom Harlan Putis, 27 Pomeroy. I have to second what Peter said, because we've seen those expressions all over. It's really a shame. And, you know, if that's how you feel about something in politics, it'd be nice to just express it in a different way than using those expletives, in my opinion. And I don't want my kids to go past any of those signs and just question, why are we speaking like that in public? So thanks for getting up to talk about that. And hopefully everybody here in this room is listening, and you condemn those bumper stickers or whatever, flags and everything else. It's all over the place. It's just creating more hatred than anything else. So we won't be able to work together or live as neighbors if we keep talking that way. So I was going to say something about the questions before regarding the sustainable energy that the borough's installing. Right now, it's really more of a subsidy. It's not to replace the actual electricity that brings power to our homes. What you're doing is you are just eliminating the need to transfer electricity from hundreds of miles away that's generated by different sources. It could be coal. We try to buy energy from much cleaner sources now. I think that's been spoken about at previous council meetings also, the percentage of our energy that's bought from clean sources. But it is a good subsidy, and the solar panels have very long lives. You can make this example for anything that you use that has power regarded to it. If you have any kind of generation in a building that makes HVAC units that make heat and air conditioning, when their life is over, you have to dispose of it. So that has to be recycled also. It can't just be, oh, well, what do we do with the batteries from EVs? It's what do we do with everything that is at the end of its life. The end of a car life, you have a car with a motor and 1,000 components, as opposed to an electric vehicle which has 50 components that have to be either put in a landfill or recycled. And Right now, there's probably 5 or 6 million cars a year that end up in a junkyard, and nobody really questions where's all the components going. But it is a valid question to ask, well, what happens to the batteries after you're done? Does the car have another life if you just replace the batteries, or do you junk the car? So I think it's very progressive of us to work towards doing both in the borough's borders with some sustainable energy, and we can do it ourselves and benefit from it, because once the solar is paid for, the electricity that's generating by the borough is free. So we're going to make more revenue, and if we promote it properly in the borough, from my perspective, we can make money by people using the electricity in the borough. I don't know if 4,000 homes are going to go solar in the future. None of us can predict something like that.
1 minute, Tom.
Okay, Mayor. So, it's just something to think about, that we should continue to work together and get comments from the public that question the validity of it, and maybe some participation if they want to get involved in it. I'm on the Community Solar Committee. It's been, publicly spoken about, and if anybody has any questions, there's definitely ways to reach us through the mayor and some of the other borough offices. So hopefully, you can look at it in a positive aspect, that it's an effort for the borough to try and be cleaner, not by eliminating the way that you fuel your homes now either, but it's a subsidy, and if you take advantage of it, it could be a benefit, because there is also some financial benefits to it. I do have that in some aspects of my business and my life, and my warehouse has had solar panels now for 14 years, and they were paid for after 7 years. They still have another 15 years of life left. Time out?
Yep.
All right. We're going to do something about that one day, Mayor. Somehow. Thanks very much, everybody.
Getting there. Mayor and council, thanks. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but a commentator just ahead of me, Peter, made a couple of good points. And I'd just like to point out that I don't know who's the owner of the truck. I don't know necessarily what it said on the back of it. Probably distasteful and upsetting to many people. But it's a two-way street in this town. And I can cite many private individuals who have expressed the same, but on the other side, emotions and comments to the other half of the population here. And I'm sure you all know who I mean, and others. So it's a two-way street. It's not just one guy, one side of the town, one side of the party. It involves a lot of other people here, so we can all work together, I hope. Another comment to Mr. Harold Lamputis and his energy comments. Everyone's looking for a handout. Everyone's looking for a subsidy. Why can't we do this without economic incentives? Why can't we do it out of our own pockets rather than rely on taxpayers and across the country to foot the bill for this sort of stuff? Lastly, and I'll end on a nice note for once, I think Lisa Ellis is to be commended for her job in arranging and rescheduling Bottle Hill Day. I think it was a great event, a great job, and kudos go out to her for that.
Well said. Thank you, Dennis.
Hi, Denise Katz, 24 Parkside Ave. Just want to echo some of the comments made in stating that I'm so grateful to the mayor and the council for their work on making our energy cleaner and working toward creating an environment for Madison that we can depend on when we need it. And I think Texas is a great example of what happens when you don't invest in your infrastructure, in your power structure. We remember 10 years ago when people froze to death in Texas during an ice storm because investments were not made in their infrastructure, and they cowed to corporate greed and trying to save money and fear-mongering about how much money we're going to save if we don't invest in our energy. People died because of it, and I'm so grateful that Madison is looking to the future and trying to figure out how to avoid those situations by electrifying our homes, our businesses, and creating a more environmentally friendly structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Hi, Chris Shore, 31 Shady Lawn Drive. And I was thinking as I listened to the comments tonight how freely the observations move through time, so that some of the things refer to elements of our past, such as fossil fuel energy or blowing all the leaves into the street. And some of the focus is on the current time that we live in, responding to current emergencies and exigencies, and trying to find a way to deal with things that lands as fairly on everybody as it's possible to imagine, such as the electric bill fund, to which every single resident in Madison contributes, and which is used then to really kind of stabilize the whole town in terms of fluctuations, so that unlike other towns, we don't have a year where suddenly the tax rate goes up 10%, or we don't have elderly people who really need the rest of us to act in a neighborly and direct way by subsidizing their electric bills. And then I hear too, a projection of energy policies into a future that does not exist, with policies that actually haven't yet been written by a climate committee which so far has explored and looked for information to present to all of us. So I think I'd like to say that in terms of the past, it wasn't always great, and in terms of the present, I look at what this council achieves and the range of interests that it tries to address and remain fair. And I look at the fact that in spite of the daily demands of meeting those needs, you are also looking forward to possible responses to future events so that we aren't unprepared. I would just like to thank you for that. I think you guys do a great job. I've noticed that, speaking for trees, for example, I don't always get my way. And I have to tell you, I think that's a good sign. I don't think anybody ought always to get a particular point of view dominant in every situation. So I like the way that you contextualize your choices, and I like the way you think about them. And I really, really appreciate the work you do in finding us hard data, so that we're not imagining a future where suddenly there are heaps of unrecyclable batteries on every corner. That's no more realistic than an Edenic future where everybody hugs all day long.
1 minute.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Leo Wells, 33 Birch Drive, Vernon, New Jersey. I work as a wildlife biologist for the Conserve Wildlife Foundation of New Jersey. And with Halloween just a week away, I'd like to address an animal that is often misunderstood and misrepresented this time of year. To many people, bats are considered spooky and even scary, but they are an important part of our ecosystem and, in my opinion, very cute. New Jersey is home to 9 species of bats, with 6 year-round residents and 3 part-time residents. During the summer, bats can be found in the forest, roosting under loose bark or beneath the foliage, and in buildings as well, using attics, soffits, and shutters as a place to sleep and raise their young. Throughout the winter, the 6 year-round residents spend their time hibernating in caves and mines while the 3 part-time residents migrate south to warmer climates. Bats play a substantial ecological role that is vital to the health of our ecosystem and our economy. Bats in New Jersey are insectivorous and are the only predator of nocturnal insects. Each night, these bats will eat up to half their body weight in insects. They save the U.S. farmers upwards of $22.9 billion a year by reducing crop damage and limiting the need for pesticides. It is also a dangerous time for bats. Bat populations across the globe continue to decline. Here in New Jersey, threats such as white nose syndrome, a fungal disease, has caused devastation to our hibernating bats. Since 2006, white nose syndrome has killed about 5.7 million bats across the eastern U.S. However, the primary threat bats face is human disturbance, including the destruction of their natural habitats, climate change, and the growing use of wind turbine energy and pesticides and chemical use. Drew Forest has essential habitat, including shagbark hickory trees, which bats such as the endangered Indiana bat use as their summer roosting spot to raise their young. Acoustic studies done at Drew Forest have also detected threatened northern long-eared bats as well. Without action to preserve their natural habitats and allowing development to take place at Drew Forest, bat populations could continue to fall, driving the species to extinction. And by protecting this habitat, we have the power to conserve our bat species. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to share that. Anyone else wishing to comment? Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting. I'm not going to be able to touch on everything that was commented on, but I think a lot of it was very helpful and presented some provocative thoughts for discussion related to the discourse that whether it's on the back of a truck or in conversations. Yes, we certainly live in very interesting times where we are bombarded with very negative messages. And, I opened this meeting to talk about what a great town we're in, how we reacted to Sandy. And it was not, we didn't react to Sandy by questioning any decision that was made. It was, what can we do? What can we do more? I think it would be great if everyone throughout this town and those especially in areas of leadership, you have to meet a higher bar. So whether it's your conversations at a farmer's market or what you display on the back of your truck or in front of your yard, everyone is watching. And I think that's good advice. A lot of comments related to energy, and obviously this is a very much an ongoing process. Some of the things, the presentation that was put I guess probably back in the spring, is probably still on Rosenet. And just related to the loss of potential revenue because of going to solar and others, we are shifting to renewable sources. Solar is the future. But also in that presentation talked about the shift, as has been discussed, of people buying electric vehicles as they decide to shift from their fossil fuel vehicle. The demand that we'll put on the grid and the increased power demand we'll have. And so it actually balances quite a bit between the solar and the increased demand. Right now, we've been purchasing, for example, hybrid vehicles for the police department, and that's, where our priority and our ability is right now. We will be shifting to electric. One of the headlines last week in the Star Ledger was state NJ Transit to buy 550 clean diesel, which is like jumbo shrimp, buses. And the reality is they would love to buy 550 electric buses today. The infrastructure is not there, where you have to get people from point A to point B. But on the flip side, these 550 clean diesel will be in the urban scenario where asthma is at its highest. So it's a process. We don't get there overnight, but if we don't plan for it, we will never get there. And certainly as we talk about the 10-year anniversary of Sandy, and we're reminded about Ian and everything else, the storms aren't more often, but they're bigger and scarier. And when a country, a group of countries, can decide to cut back production that affects people living across this world, it tells us something about the future of fossil fuel. If we don't plan now, whether it's at this level in Madison, at New Jersey's commitment, California, Florida's, or Texas commitment. In the United States, we need to do it now. Otherwise, our future is very bleak. Related to public safety, in anticipation of, I just want to share something I prepared related to the contract negotiations and public safety. You know, Madison is one of the safest communities in the state, and certainly in the country. That doesn't mean we can't do better, and so our commitment is to public safety. It is a commitment to the fire department. And there's been a lot of conversation, whether on the web or through the media, about the negotiations, and one of the statements that the borough has put out is we obviously can't do contract negotiations through the media, and certainly not at a council meeting, so I can't share where we are. But I do liken contract negotiations to making sausage. It's not pretty for those that are directly involved with it, our borough administration and the labor leaders and the attorneys. And certainly for those that are looking on the outside in, it can be very confusing. But rest assured, we are committed to public safety, to maintaining the high quality of life we have in Madison and the safe community we have. We value all our employees, our police, fire, EPW, people in this building. They make Madison great. So it is our goal to deliver a contract that is fair for both the employee and the taxpayers, with a view to the future and not just today. So that's our update, and I appreciate for everyone coming in to share their comments. And again, it helps us, kind of keeps us on our toes and keeps us thinking. So thank you very much. We now move on for introduction of ordinances, which we don't have any tonight. So we will go right to our consent agenda resolution. Will the clerk please read the statement?
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion or any that need to be pulled? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Byrne?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen? Yes. Ms. Ehrlich? Yes. Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
I think we got our notation there with last year's version, but that's all right. There is no unfinished business, so approval of vouchers. Will the clerk please read the voucher totals?
In the current fund, $5,583,807.14. From the general capital fund, $17,232.51. From the electric operating fund, $408,032.04. From the electric capital fund, $142.52. From the water operating fund, $4,745.48, and from the trust, $13,326.71. The total is $6,027,286.40.
Mayor, I move the vouchers.
I'll second it. Okay,
Any discussion?
we're going to pay.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Byrne? Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
And there is no new business, so
Mayor, I move we adjourn the meeting.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. A great evening, and